There we go. I see the recording has started. Do you want me to take it from here, Dom, or?
Please do, Barb.
Yep, okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm calling this meeting of the Tier 3 Regionalization Working Group to order. It is 10:03 on August 18th, 2025, and I'm Barb Neal. We'll be recording this meeting, and the recording will be posted to the task force webpage following the meeting. Let's start with our usual roll call of working group members. Please verbally acknowledge your presence when I call your name. Jim Mack.
Here.
Morning, Jim. And Ron Kumetz.
I am here.
Good morning, Ron. And of course, we also have our project management partners, Rick, Dom, and Elizabeth from Televate.
Morning.
And we have a few stakeholders here as well. Let me get my list up. Everybody knows everyone else who's joined us this morning. So welcome to Jim Cronin, Michelle Hunt, and Chris Pedotti, all from Department of Public Safety. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Barb.
Yep. And let's see. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes needed to the agenda? Okay. Hearing nothing, we'll consider the agenda approved and move on to approval of the minutes. Let's see, these would be the minutes from the meeting that was held on August 8th. They were distributed to working group members earlier, and they're also available on the web page. Are there any changes needed to the minutes from August 8th, and or do I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Ron. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes from August 8th? Oh, I'm sorry, is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from August 8th, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
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 Perfect. The minutes from August 8th are approved, and I will hand it right back over to you, Dom.
All right, thank you, Barb. And again, good morning, everyone. We'll move into the objectives and discussion. Just to set us all on the same footing here. We are this is the meeting of the Policy and Operations-Based Regionalization, or Tier 3, as Barb had said earlier. We have a schedule for our working group meetings. This has been updated somewhat. You'll see the items in yellow are those that have been proposed by Televate, proposed adjustments. It was not discussed at the full task group or task force meeting last week as intended, because we weren't able to have a meeting. But those are proposed updates, and basically those tasks have been moved out 2 weeks to accommodate somewhat lengthier schedule for the ongoing working group meetings that we have now. We have governance, Tier 2 and Tier 3 ongoing. Tier 2 seems to be well positioned to propose or present their findings and recommendations at the task force meeting coming up on the 27th. And we'll discuss that for the Tier 3 here as well. We may be in a similar position. But so there's where we are. The current schedule, again, not approved, but proposed. And now the objectives for this working group is to determine priorities and potential recommendations related to these key areas of policy and operations, and to present them to the task force for their consideration. You'll see there are a total of 9 working items divided into the 3 categories here. Each of them is green, which means we've talked to them previously and have developed an initial priority or initial preference in terms of options. Oh, somebody's raised their hand. Oh, Barb, go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Sorry to interrupt, Dom.
No problem.
If Tier 2 and possibly this group, Tier 3, are ready to present recommendations at the next regular meeting, we should, I think, make sure to have a separate agenda item for that
Yes,
on the agenda. So I'm just calling that out. So hopefully between the two of us, we'll remember to get that on the agenda.
right, absolutely. Yes, I
Okay, all
agree.
right, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. And what we'd like to discuss primarily today during our discussions, we have ongoing action items, and we'll review those that are still open. And we have some presentation, some summary on some of the action item responses. And then we have developed a table summarizing these 9 work items and what the task force preference or the working group's preference is for each of those items. And it is felt that that could be the potential content to present to the task force when we get there. So moving to the action items, and I've trimmed out some that have already been closed. So we're looking at primarily ones that are still open here. You'll see some of them have a date closed with a question mark, hoping we can address those and close them today. That it would be the first one would be action item 2, which was to look into the inventory regarding the QA plan. We have discussed this at a previous meeting. We've identified in the inventory report which dispatch centers identified having a structured QA plan. We did get a sample from Montpelier, which was discussed previously, and that was provided and is available to the working group. So we feel we have addressed that action item. Are there any additional actions to be taken there? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to action item number 4, which also was related to the inventory report regarding the administrative roles and issues that could potentially interfere with dispatchers' roles. We have discussed this previously. There were a number of items listed in the inventory report, and each dispatch center indicated which ones they have dispatchers spending time on. And you'll see there are a number of listed there. And we have recommended, and it's in some of our final presentation, that some of these items could potentially be addressed in a regionalization approach. It's going to depend somewhat, of course, on the outcome of Tier 1 working group and what the regionalization plan is. But some of these items, such as records, warrants, et cetera, could be addressed regionally to help offload some of these items from the dispatchers. Action item number 6 is the long-term action, and that's one we'll need further development on once we agree on what our direction is in each of these work items, and we will need to put together some next steps on each of those, potentially a estimated cost. Action item 9 was also related to QA documentation, and we have reached out to Newport Dispatch Center. We were not able to get their current plan, but we do have the plan that we received from Montpelier. So we're assuming that action is closed as of today. Next, we have action item 11 was to develop a list of issues that could potentially put dispatching at risk, so potentially distract dispatchers from their primary role. We have developed an initial list, and we'll cover that in subsequent slides. Item 13 was to review and get additional information on the Vermont Emergency Dispatch Association. We have done that. Rick reported on that earlier. We did have a meeting with representatives from the VTDA, and they did agree to provide recommendations to the task force based on their work and their preferences. We have not seen that yet, so we're leaving that open until we receive the recommendations. Any comments or questions on these before we move on to the next portion of the list? Okay, hearing none, moving on. Action item 16 was regarding potential internship or potential training that could be provided by the Tech Center in Springfield. Rick, do you have any update on that for us?
Yes, I do. So I have reached out to the Tech Center, both on the recommendation of one of our guests, and I have not yet spoken to them. So what I did learn is that the tech director, I think his name is Mr. Williams, he is not available until he's on vacation until the first week of September. So I still intend to talk to him. We refer to Mr. Tim Gould by Kate, and so he's a high school teacher, and he won't be available again until after the first week of school as well. So I still plan on talking to them, learn a little bit more about what's going on at different levels, and whether or not the Tech Center could be a resource for us in the event that we want to create an additional education program. There's one being provided by Mr. Gould, and I just need to get some more details and speak to them.
Okay, thanks. And Rick, I believe you were also addressing action item 18 regarding remote dispatching and speaking with someone from Mad River Valley Ambulance.
I am just playing phone tag over there. Hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to them today. But I've been playing phone tag. We just haven't been able to connect yet, and I apologize for the delay, but I just don't have control over it.
All right, thank you.
Hey,
Action
Don, Michelle has her hand up.
Okay. Please, Michelle, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see that.
No, you're all set. Good morning. Rick, did you have a chance to talk to Kate at all about what it is that we're doing? Because it's not an internship per se. It's just Tim Gould is a retired trooper who took on the role of the Tech Center criminal justice program. And so we have kind of been like just piloting, having we've gone in there and done presentations with them, and then we've had them come in and sit in dispatch. So it's not really a true internship per se, but we're just kind of piloting it at the moment.
You know, I appreciate having that insight. I did not talk to Kate. I just recall that she provided Tim's name in one of the chats of our previous meeting. So I'll reach out to her and get some additional insight. Thank you for providing me that additional information, Michelle. That's helpful. That'll help facilitate a conversation that I have a little bit more insight into. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks. Moving on. Oh, and before I move on, I failed to mention I have a conflict at 11, so I will have to depart at that time. And if we still have the slides, someone else from Televate can take over those. I have a stop at 11. Action item 19 was to list the policies and procedures currently in use. We did identify, based on a review of the inventory report, there are a total of 8 dispatch centers that reported having policies and procedures manual. Those were not collected during the interview process, so we don't have any copies of those. We believe that the next steps would be for as moving forward, there will be, we anticipate having a governance body and likely a committee for policies and procedures, and we would anticipate that would be handled at that point in time.
Dom, I'm going to interrupt you again.
Yes.
So the policies and procedures were not requested during the MCP outreach. Is that right? So it's not like they didn't provide something we asked for. We just didn't ask for it.
That's correct.
Okay.
The approach was it was voluntary. So there was a SharePoint or a portal set up so that dispatch centers could upload documentation if they had any, but it was voluntary.
Okay. So I'm thinking maybe we should have some outreach to them to ask again, maybe more directly or see. But it seems like
We
maybe
can
you
do
think
that.
this should move to the governance committee at this point.
That's one option. We can certainly take another send a request to those. I think
Okay.
there's 8 there. Yeah, so we'll do that.
I think it'd be worthwhile and Chris Pedoti, I could put you on the spot and see if VSP is willing to share them, or if you prefer to, consider it offline and then let me know. That's fine too.
I'm sorry, Bob. I was on a phone call. I didn't get that that part. What did you need provided?
I'm just requesting or seeing if you would be able to provide, if the task force requests it or when the task force requests it, the policy and procedures manual for VSP centers. Is that something we could get?
I mean, off the top of my head, it doesn't seem like there would be anything overly confidential, but I can certainly get back to you on that.
Okay, well, that's a heads up that we'll probably be asking. So I appreciate that. All right, back to you, Don.
All right, thanks, Barb. Thanks, Chris. Action item 20 was regarding different levels of failover and how to potentially address those. We have put together an initial list of various considerations for that, and we will present that in subsequent slides. Similarly, for action item 21, we have a slide addressing potential job descriptions, as we have researched that and also reached out to MCP. 24 is an action item for Barb to provide New Hampshire contact information, and this should probably be closed. I think you have done this. I don't think we've connected with Mr. Doyle yet, but we'll close this out from your standpoint.
Yeah, I think, Rick, didn't you have some communication with him even over the weekend, or you reached out?
Yeah, I sent an email to him, a follow-up to the one that you sent him, introducing us and asking him for an opportunity to talk. He had not yet replied to that email, Barb, so I took the liberty to just follow up and see if he was available if he was willing and available to get together this week. So yes, I did follow up on your original email.
Okay, great. I think one thing that's important to keep in mind, I thought of this after I, volunteered to connect Rick and Mark. We need to remember that the job of the task force relates to the dispatch function in Vermont. The conversation with Mark, I think, will still be of value, but it's really focused on how the 911 system operates there. So with the center and the backup center, and then everything being handled 2-stage is more about the 911 system, which is not part of the task force work. So I'm just calling that out so that we kind of keep that in mind during our conversations about this.
Barb, I fully agree with you. My intention is to talk about regionalization, because one of the conversations that and the points have been brought up by a number of members of our stakeholder community are that there hadn't been an option presented with fewer PSAPs and more dispatch centers, and I just wanted to respect that conversation, because what New Hampshire has as a single PSAP and multiple dispatch centers, and I just thought we get a little bit of insight from Mark regarding that, and that was really the purpose of my conversation, just regionalization.
Yep. Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Pleasure.
And that we just discussed was actually captured in action item 25. So 24 can be closed, and it's going to be handled with action item 25. And then finally, we have action item 26 was to look at what other states have done in terms of legislative language regarding the reclassification of telecommunicators. And we do have an update on that in the next few slides. So some of our updates relating back to action item number 11 about potentially putting dispatching at risk. We developed an initial list here, and we're happy to add to that. If anyone on the call has further information or would like to provide that. But essentially what we've covered here is some of the ancillary activities that have been identified in the report, such as potential jail activities or security camera monitoring, walk-up window, and then also, of course, if there's issues with the radio system that would make dispatching more difficult or possibly distracting or extend the time frame required to secure resources. Those are captured here, as well as cellular coverage. If the cellular coverage is poor, it's difficult to hear the actual 911 caller. Again, that will potentially delay or distract. If there's insufficient information being provided, for example, the Annie Alley, that could delay things, or if there's issue with the call transfer from 911 to dispatch centers. And of course, we've also talked about potential issues with insufficient staffing or lack of, I guess, relating back to insufficient information, the lack of CAD information, or response plans for dispatching, for example, fire and EMS. So these are some of the initial ones that came to mind. Again, we're happy to update this list as we receive additional input. And feel free to email us or send this information if you like.
I think it looks like a good first start. I do want to comment on the insufficient Annie Alley information. Yes. I'll just throw this out there. It's very early in this process, so keep that in mind. But in October, the 911 system, the 911 board will be entering into a contract extension. We have entered into the contract extension within Digital for 30 months from October of 2025, which takes us to early 2028.
Right. As
part of that extension, there are some changes to mapping, and once we implement the updated system, let's say, for the PSAPs, we will be doing outreach to dispatch centers because the board authorized us to purchase, essentially, as part of this contract extension, a limited number or a number of Rapid SOS licenses, which would improve the delivery of Annie Alley. It would automate the delivery of Annie and Alley to dispatch centers from the 911 system. So I'm just putting a placeholder there that we will have more to discuss about how that could be implemented or offered to the dispatch centers. We have not worked out any of the details yet on how we're going to do that outreach. We need to get the system components in place first for 911 call takers. But anyway, that will be on the horizon at some point.
Right. Thank you for that update, Barb. And actually, that has been discussed in Tier 2 regarding the technology regionalization, and some of the recommendations coming out of that working group will be to increase usage of Rapid SOS as to help fill that gap.
Okay, great.
And the next action item was action item number 20 regarding mission critical communications redundancy and failover. And we have looked at that both from a technology and workforce level. So there's a list of potential items here at the technology level that need to be considered to have either redundant architecture or some backup service to support. And again, this is a technology level. I have a subsequent slide on the workforce level. Rick, I think you might have some additional insight on this.
Yeah, thank you, Dom, and thank you everyone for bringing this to everyone's attention. This really is essential for public safety communication systems and practices. There actually, Televate was very involved in the development of defining public safety grade systems and facilities. There is a link to that document. So we chair that committee from the National Public Safety Telecommunications Council. So, backup, failover, and redundancy are near and dear to us. And I want to just point out it's very important that it's not just at the, it's not good enough to just build redundancy into your systems so that there is a failover. There are failover networks and practices, but you have to maintain them. We often find that, because we get busy in our day to day, or that we don't allocate sufficient dollars to operating it, that we don't maintain our technologies and systems and practices to the mission critical grade of service. And so, mission critical grade of service is typically 5 nines. I mean, we want 5 nines reliability on all of our capabilities, and 5 nines is a very rigid, but I think appropriate grade of service to achieve. That means you're only out of service for seconds, over the course of over an annual period. So, building technologies and systems to achieve that takes a good architecture and reasonable capital investment. And I don't. It's not good enough for us to think of just at the technology level. We really have to, look at having these capabilities at the workforce level as well. Oftentimes, we are asked by our public safety customers to point out. You can go back to that other slide, please, a second, Dom. So we're oftentimes asked to say, well, what are my single points of failure? Where should we, put the most attention, and what should we consider the most? And the answer is always easy. It's the people that are really the single points of failure. We tend to not have a sufficient backup at certain key levels within our organizations, and it isn't because we don't want to. It's because we have budget constraints or we have people capability constraints. But people really matter, and so the workforce needs to be considered. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But, when we talk about technologies, what are we really talking about? When we're talking about all of the key technologies that connect, beginning from when a 911 call is made through all the systems, processes, technologies until the incident is successfully responded to and mitigated. And there's a lot going on within that process. And so, 911 call delivery and processing systems, PSAP, the dispatch center communications, the NG 911 backhaul connectivity of all, CAD, RMS, and all our priority applications, our data sharing systems, mobile portable radio systems and devices, radio channels. I mean, we tend to only have a single radio channel and a single transmitter at a number of our sites. And so we need over-the-air channels in both direct mode. We need backup there. Our backhaul networks need to be robust. Because we rely on information technology to support our transmit and database access. We've really just got to have robust networks. Our facilities, including power, backup power. I mean, a number of sites, we just have not been able to afford putting generators at a number of our radio tower sites and others. And so commercial wireless, telco, and fiber. We argued, with FirstNet, during that process that they didn't have backup capabilities at a number of their key radio wireless sites. And, it's an investment decision they made. And of course, we need to continue to have reliable access to our third-party applications and databases. So the list, is unique to some and common to all. So I'm not, by pointing out this list, I'm not saying we haven't done a good job of what we've done. I had a good conversation, with Barb and with Jared, and there's multiple sources of backup for 911 call delivery and processing systems. We're not 2, 3, 4, and multiple options. So, it's building in that type of failover and redundancy is essential in our industry. It's not just a nice to have; it's an essential to have. And we do a good job, but we also are restrained by people and budgets. So go to the next slide, please, Tom. So at the workforce level, I mean, the rationale, we already have some shortages at our 911 centers, PSAPs, and dispatch centers. We've noted throughout the survey and throughout this program that there are some centers that really struggle to maintain a reliable staff. Great people, but there are some shortages in terms of maintaining that. And I'm not. It's not just for today. What about tomorrow? And that's why we have focused on education and training and recruitment of talent. So, at all levels, call takers, telecommunications trainers, the radio heads, my fond call out to all the LMR folks out there. There's a very few. There's always one expert in each agency and department. They're also technicians and public and private. We've spoken with some of the radio shops in the state who claim, that they're having a hard time maintaining talent in their pool of expertise. And there are actually some networks being deployed right now that are delayed because of insufficient radio shop technicians. IT technologists, application and database specialists. There are a lot of folks in our overall public safety communications solution that we need to be sure that there are sufficient folks that there's a sufficient workforce and a backup. Internal and external specialists are cross-trained at the local and regional level. If we have a dispatch center that goes down, where are all the calls routed to? Are there neighboring under an MOU? Are there neighboring centers that can take the calls and support a given center? In common practices and procedures, and my point anchored on standard certification and best practices fueled by training and workshops that are repeatable and transferable. I think an important outcome of our program is to get to that level where we have common practices, procedures, policies, and we're trained so that we can support not just internal to our centers, but support our neighbors when needed. And I really enjoyed putting this together and thinking about this, and so. Be happy to take any questions, but I want to be sure that when we think about redundancy and failover, it's just not the technologies and the systems that support our critical work and to our communities, but also that the workforce that is the foundation of this. Also, we consider them as well. Any questions, comments?
Well, I could add that, we've seen with the 911 system a fairly recent example of the workforce failover, if you will, issue, right? So about a year ago, actually, we had Tropical Storm Debbie that came through Vermont and had a tremendous influx of calls in a 4-hour period, like more than a day, 24 hours worth of calls came in within 4 hours, and it exceeded the capacity of the call takers who were working that day. So the technology in the 911 system worked exactly as it was supposed to. The system stayed up, the calls were held in the various queues for as long as they were supposed to be. They were sent to the backup phones as they were supposed to be, and then held again. But the end result was we had multiple callers who waited, I believe it was over 2 minutes for a call taker to respond to them. We are working through potential solutions for that issue, which of course, even if you just consider the weather related events that seem to be getting more and more severe each time they happen, they will happen again. So that's that particular example would be a good use case, if you will, for ideas for going forward. And I know, Jim Mack, your center went down even for dispatch during that event, right? Due to a generator problem, as I
Yeah,
recall.
we lost our generator. I have a new generator now.
Yeah, good. Good. Yes, so that is, I've never really heard the two put together, the technology and the workforce redundancy, if you will, as clearly as Rick just did it, but I agree that it's a really important point.
Well, you can replace a generator and but you have a generator there so that you have reliable power. I mean, we have been in some centers, some very large centers where they had two generators and neither one of them worked for a problem. And it wasn't due to their lack of maintenance on the system. It was because an error occurred where a big red button that should have said "Don't ever touch this" was touched, and both generators went out, no power, and it took a while to figure that out. But even the redundancy. So thinking about this, we don't really have remote call taking capabilities. And I'm not saying we should have them, but if one of our call takers, telecommunications, and other key people can't get to the office, they want to work, but they can't get to the office. The roads are closed. Their vehicles been damaged or whatever. And so, when the consideration might be that we have some remote call taking capabilities down the road that will be another backup to ensuring that we have sufficient staff during those key heavy periods of need time. So, I don't know. Each one of these areas, people and technologies, has a unique approach to ensure the redundancy and failover. They're typically, when we design these systems, we, like we do a new radio site, we'll, put in backup backhaul. So there'll be multiple sources of backhaul. I'll put it on a ring topology so that, that's really how the NG911 and other databases of fiber connections are made. You can't always achieve that because it's very difficult and expensive to always put any given site on a ring fiber optic or backhaul ring. So everything is. Just my point is that each one of these key technical areas and workforce areas needs an approach unique to that category.
Any additional comments? All right, thank you for that. Action item number 21 was regarding standardized job classifications. We've included some listings here as well. Two of the sites that you might think of immediately are APCO and NINA, and both of them have job posting sites, so you can see job descriptions and classifications there. There's a couple of links provided. Also, there is a standard work description on the site ONET, one you might not think of initially, but it's the Occupational Information Network, and it has a definition for a public safety telecommunicator. and it lists the tasks, potential work activities, required skills, the work context, if you will. And so that could be potentially very helpful. Also, MCP noted that they can provide additional information. They've got extensive experience in this area and some other resources. So they have offered, if the task force desires, they can attend one of these meetings or the larger task force meeting and provide additional information. Any questions on this response? And finally, on the action item front, we have action item number 26. And I believe this is a map from Nina Page regarding states that have addressed telecommuter reclassification, at least to some level. Elizabeth, I know you researched this. Would you like to provide some additional insight?
Well, the website itself includes some of the legislative language. We didn't include that here. It's pretty wordy, but they show examples from a bunch of different states, and there are also a few counties included in some of those states as well that show basically either that they have reclassified as public safety, and in some cases, to what benefit. So some of the benefits that we saw a lot of include workers' compensation for PTSD and access to mental health treatment options, and providing certification or training access, and also standards for those trainings. There were a few other interesting ones that came up pretty much once each, but I just included them on this list anyway, because like I said, I thought they were interesting. Some other examples of benefits that come out of this include retirement benefits. In Maryland, there's a property tax credit. There's another state included immunity from civil liability, and also requiring the answering point to be operated constantly.
Elizabeth, what does that last one mean, that requiring answering point to be operated constantly? Do you have any more context on that?
I believe it was essentially just to have it running 24/7. Let me see if I still have it open on my screen, and maybe I can provide you with the exact language if you give me just a second to check for it.
So while Elizabeth is checking for it, the rationale behind our looking further into this was, there was an effort at the national level to reclassify telecommunicators, 911 call takers, as public safety. That failed for whatever reason, I don't know. So a number of states took it upon themselves to enact into their code this classification of telecommunicators, 911 callers, as first responders, public safety. And that's really what, as we could see from this map, there's 19 states that have to date enacted, built into their legislative code, that reclassification. And some of them have added some additional capability features and benefits. And so that's what Elizabeth is referring to here. For us, the call here is, we're not going to get the federal government to do this. So will the state legislators, agree? Is this something that the working group supports, and presenting this to the legislature? This doesn't cost anything other than, goodwill. And so there's not really, there may be some benefits, but those benefits are well deserved anyway from this community. So that was really the rationale here. Go ahead. I'll give you enough time, Elizabeth.
I kind of don't think that I still have it open on my screen, so no, but through no fault of your own.
Well, we'll provide that.
It's okay.
provide
Yeah,
that
you can
information.
follow up offline. Yeah.
Michelle had a comment too. Oh, so now she said at the national level, it's now called the Enhancing First Response Act. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Yeah, I know they haven't given up on that, but to your point, Rick, we probably can't depend on that to happen at a national level. If it does, great, but I think you know, it would make more sense to approach it at the state level. Okay, that concludes our review of the action items and some of the responses we had. What we would like to move into now is the work item summary. And I'll show you the format we are using here as we've tried to summarize the different work items. So you'll see those on the left-hand side of the screen. So there'll be a total of 9 that we address here. The options are included here. And under option 1, option 2, option 3, this is the direct text from the system planning document with the various options for each of these particular work items. You'll notice some are highlighted in green. That would represent what we understood based on our previous meetings, the preference for the working group for each of these particular items. And then we've added some comments on the right-hand side to add some additional information to those. So certainly, if there's additional information, additional comments we want to add, we're happy to adjust those or include changes as the working group sees fit. But to start off with standardized QA, you'll see that option 1 was using current QA processes and resources to develop to be developed for review of it says calls received on 911 administrative line and radio dispatches. So the working group concluded that we had the greatest preference for option 1, but to augment that to establish a common QA statewide policy, which it was not explicitly stated here, but wanted to address a standard QA policy statewide, most likely via a governance subcommittee. Are there additional thoughts or comments we would like to add under that work item?
I can add a comment here.
Yes.
I just didn't want to barge in so quick like I've been doing, but all of this, and I think you've summarized it in the comments well enough, but as far as extending, you know, a standardized QA process to dispatch centers, we could recommend that if they have existing protocols and procedures and all of that. But there might need to be like a prerequisite identified before you can start measuring quality control and performance and that type of thing. You need to have the rules of the road documented for your staff. So different, depending on how regionalization evolves, there might be different levels of different places where people are starting from, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
All right. Agreed. Anyone else have any additional comments? The next work item was support and administrative roles. We talked about this earlier a bit with the action items. Option 3 addressed sharing some of the support roles as described here under option 3. There was a preference for this option. Looking at potentially administrative duties. HR, we questioned whether or not there may only be some limited portion of HR that could be done at a regional level. Also, alarm activation, records, warrants, and addressing municipal services. Again, based on the Tier 1 regionalization approach, the working group's belief was that that could be addressed at a regional level. Moving on to the next group of work items, GIS was one. This 2 options were offered by MCP. One was option 2 was to enhance the state's GIS data by incorporating regional or municipal data not currently included. We see that as essentially ongoing, and commented that to maintain that option and continue as it's seems to be working well today.
Yep,
On
and
the-
we're happy, the 911 board is happy to have conversations with anybody, well, any public safety entity that's interested in having data incorporated into the GIS.
Great, thanks. Policies and procedures, also the working group expressed a preference for option 2 as it's described there. It does refer to communication centers. So in the comments, we clarified that call taking already exists in terms of standard policies and procedures, but the working group did prefer option 2 for development of standardized policies and procedures at the state level. Similarly, with protocols, again, option 2 was preferred with and specifically identified with the state and local collaboration in developing those protocols. Again, recognizing that existing protocols do exist on the call taking side. Anything we haven't captured here or additional comments we'd like to add? All right, moving on to the next group of work items. Planning was addressed. Option 2 again was the preference in this case, which describes state-led training and workshops on planning initiatives and leadership training. So the working group preferred approaching it, the planning work item in that manner. Under recruiting and hiring, again, option 2 was preferred. And we noted that some job descriptions do exist. We provided some resources to those that can be researched and potentially gather what works best for the state. And also note that MCP can provide further information. Any additional items here? And moving on to actually our last group of work items. Standardized training is obviously one that we've had significant discussion on. There were 3 options offered here. We've highlighted 2 of them as it was discussed that option 2 would potentially be a short-term option to create a list of approved training programs. And we know some have been developed already with the ad hoc group that had been working on that, and now the Vermont Emergency Dispatch Association, and then likely transition to a statewide certification program for all job classifications. And the transition would like to be sooner than later per the working group's preference. And finally, we discussed staffing, where option 1 was just to continue current staffing practice. Option 2 was to utilize some form of hybrid staffing, either utilizing it within a physical location or remotely. The working group's preference was at this point to focus on option 2, which was using a physical location, but potentially having some shared resources that could be shared between various dispatch centers. And we noticed that, or we recorded that that is the preference for the working group, but that will somewhat, of course, be based on the physical regionalization approach to see which dispatch centers could potentially share those items or share the staffing. If there's no other comments or questions on that, our next step would be looking at the next steps to either adjust these recommendations or to provide additional comments and to develop additional content. And at this point, Rick or Elizabeth, can you take over the PowerPoint here? I think the next, as I mentioned, next one is next steps. I'll need to sign off and go on to my other commitment. But
Yeah, sure. One of us can do it. Elizabeth, do you have access to the deck, or I could bring it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no.
Yes, ma'am.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'll touch
You
base
had a
later.
question, comment, Barb?
I'm just getting the message that I have poor network quality. So I had lost Dom for a minute, and I didn't know if everybody was experiencing the same thing. So I think it's just me. Thank you, Dom.
All right, thank you.
So in terms of Dom, thank you. I can work with Elizabeth to take over. If Elizabeth, if you can't put it up, I can. It looks like you've already just did. So, I what we really have is now, and what I'm recommending is that we now need to codify these, we can, for a presentation from the working group to the task force, we need to agree to these items, which I think we have, and then we need to put together, what substantive investments need to be made. How are we going to achieve that? And our Dom, what we can do on our end is we can put together that draft of, to achieve. So here's a presentation that you would make to the task force, the working group would make, and then here's what we recommend and why, and then here is what we expect it's going to require to achieve these objectives, and then staffing and most of this is people, and a restatement of some policies, procedures, and standards. So with that said, I think, what have we got here? So if we're talking about a presentation to the task force on 8/27, that means that we would need probably one more session if we could meet again next Monday or later this week. But if we're meeting on the 28th, we would give us some time to put together, that's next deck, which shouldn't be that many slides, and a ROM budget, rough order magnitude budget, and then, discuss openly with the working group and reach agreement on what would be presented on the 28th. So that would, basically.
I think it's the 27th, right?
27th. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 27th.
My bad. I'm looking at my calendar, and I'm looking left, and I'm looking at my calendar. I'm saying, no, that's Wednesday. 27th. So if we could get together not later than Monday of next week, and I think we would need not more than an hour, but we would, get this group together based on a draft. We could also send the draft out in advance, but I don't know what your thoughts are, but that's basically what I'd recommend we do.
I think your recommendations make good sense. If Jim and Ron agree, we could see if they are available next Monday at the same time, 10 o'clock, to meet. But Jim and Ron, let me know your thoughts on the recommendations and a potential next meeting.
I'm all
I
set with the
agree.
recommendations.
Thank you, Jim. Ron?
I agree, and I am available next Monday at the same time.
Okay, Jim, are you?
Yeah, same for me.
Okay. Well, there you go, Rick.
Hey, that was too easy.
It was.
I like it. I mean, easy is good.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So go ahead.
it's possible that we won't, if we have items that are still lingering or need additional work, and we can present that to the task force at the same time. So,
Yeah.
we'll be as close as we can to getting our final recommendations out there and see where we are.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And again, I certainly want to thank the working group for the amount of time and effort you've all taken, and to our stakeholder community. We've had a rigorous input and participation from the community that has been very beneficial. So I think go ahead, Elizabeth has discovered something. You want to speak up, Elizabeth?
I just provided some text in the chat. We don't need to actually review it. It was just the text from West Virginia, which was the state that mentioned the constant operation by a telecommunicator.
Great. Thank you. Well, if Rick, if you're all set, we could open this up to public comment now if you're ready to move on. Yes? Okay.
Yes, Barb. Thank you for that.
Okay, it looks like a couple of our folks have dropped off, but Chris Pedoti, do you have anything you'd like to share today?
No, Barb, I'm good. It was good to listen to everything, but unless you have any questions with me, I'm all set.
Okay.
Hey,
Fair
Chris,
enough.
I do have a request from you. I have your email somewhere, but if you could put it in the chat, so I don't have to search for it. I'll send an email out to you. I'd like to get together with you. If you have availability this week, I'll send you an email. We can find common time to get together, as I requested in one of the last meetings we were on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put that in the chat now.
Appreciate it, Chris.
Well,
Great. All right. It seems to me that we are all set for today. I'll assume that Elizabeth or Dom or someone will send out the meeting invite for 10 o'clock next Monday.
Elizabeth, sure, please do.
Great. Anything further, Jim or Ron, from you guys?
No?
Make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Jim. All in favor of adjourning for today, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, perfect. Okay, thanks again. I'll add to Rick's thanks for all of the participation in this working group and the others that you're on. I think we've made really good progress, and we certainly appreciate the support too from Rick and Dom and Elizabeth. Could not have done it without you.
Thank you for the opportunity to support you guys.
All righty. All right, everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good day.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Barb.
Have a good day.
Okay,
See you, Jim.
bye-bye.
See you, Ron. Bye, Elizabeth, Chris.